What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake. This news story happened on Wednesday, but I didn't want to ignore it, but you had the PlayStation Showcase, you had so much going on, so I figured, well, let's do it on a second channel, news weekend kind of video, because I do want to talk about it. It makes me slightly mad, but at the same time, I have to give them some props for a few things. Number one, well, really, the main thing, communication. Owning up to certain things, just kind of laying it all out there and saying, okay, well, here's what we're doing. Now, a lot of what they're doing leads me to be disappointed, at least of the progress that's being made, but ultimately, at least they're talking about it. So we got a couple pretty good, I'd say, tidbits for this game. Number one, don't expect to see it at all this year. So they immediately say it's not going to be at Ubisoft Forward, right, which is that June show that they're going to be doing. But then right afterwards, they say don't expect it this year, period, to hear or see anything. So this is it. This was their update for the entire year. Now, next year, okay, we should start to, maybe, but yet again, the rest of it, I think, puts that into some danger as well. Then they talk about what stage of development they're in, and they're in the conception phase, and they're hiring and building up their team. This, to me, is probably the most disappointing. Now, again, I give them props for literally telling us what era they're in, kind of, just kind of being open about it. The rest of it really just goes into, like, what does Prince of Persia mean to you and, things like that, and that's fine. I do want developers of this game that were fans of the original and want to do right by it, and it seemed, for the most part, that is what's going to happen for this, using kind of the old mechanics, updating it to how those mechanics would probably work now with running and movement and combat. So it should feel like Sands of Time, but if you made it in the current year, right? A little bit more fluid, just updating that kind of stuff. All right, fine. But the conception phase, that makes me think this game is, at least 3-4 years away. I think I probably would say 4 to 5. You know what? Let's just throw 3 years straight out the window. That's just how it works nowadays, okay? If you're not even in the, meat of it or the weeds and grinding it out day by day, you're in the conception phase. This game is not coming out for, 4 or 5 years. And what makes me so mad about that, now that's not necessarily this team's fault, right? Ubisoft Montreal, it's not their fault. It's probably the other team's fault, or it's just Ubisoft's fault in general. If you want to blame the larger corporation, that's totally fine. But this game was announced years ago. It's been in the works years ago. It was supposed to have, probably already come out. So I definitely, this is the only thing they haven't been transparent about, but you can read into it so easily. I'm going to heavily assume that they got this game, right? Because remember, the team that was working on it didn't seem like they could handle it. They had always been used as a support team, and then they were given the full reins to do this, and it definitely seemed like they couldn't do it, all right? Whoever you want to blame for that, I don't really care. But you had that situation happen. I'm going to heavily assume that this team, okay, that has the game now, they got the game in the mail, they opened it up, and they threw it in the garbage, immediately, and they started from scratch. There's no other way that we're at this point in development if they didn't do that, right? If they were picking up the pieces of where it was left off from somebody else, I think you'd be most likely at a different stage of development right now. So that's what I think. I think they got it, and they said, no way. What did you even do to this thing? And then they throw it out and say, we're just going to restart at, on the ground level, on level 1, and we're just going to kind of build it up after that. And I do think that's what they've been doing. So, I guess we've had this situation with Dead Island. This game, to me, it's not doomed. This game is not doomed at all. I'm excited about it still. Now, I don't think about it much because at this point, do I want to think about a game that's going to come out in 4 or 5 years? There's too much stuff going on right now to focus 4 or 5 years down the line. I'm not going to do that personally, but I don't think the game is doomed. And again, I think Dead Island really is, for those that didn't play it, by the way, I played it. I don't know if I have to say this. They gave me a review code, okay? So disclaimer, I loved it. I loved Dead Island 2. I thought it was fantastic. And honestly, they had the same, I think theirs was kind of worse, right? Dead Island 2 canceled 2 or 3 times, jumped 2 or 3 times, not just once. This jumped 1 time. That game jumped more. And the team that had it, they had it for 4 or 5 years, and they made their version of the game that they wanted to. You probably imagine they kind of started from scratch, and everybody kind of did each time, and then we got the game. And I think it's actually a really, really good game. So this is probably, I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine. It'll just take half a decade, which at this point in my life, I'm not going to think that far out when there's all this stuff happening right now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.